everybody. I am Nathan Boyles, a county commissioner here in Okaloosa County, and we're coming to you today in this video, the first of a three-part series to try and give some support and assistance to our small business owners here in Okaloosa County. We're going to be walking you through the various sources of grant or loan funding that are currently available from the federal and state government to try and help keep businesses together and moving forward during this very difficult time in the response to COVID-19. Myself, I am not an expert in any of these subjects, though I am a small business owner, and so certainly like many of you, trying to figure out and understand these programs and how they may work or support my business. And fortunately, we do have several experts here with us today that are going to help walk us through. And so first, Mr. Tony Hughes. Tony, good to see you today. Many of you in the community know Tony, a longtime banker in our community, and recently stepped away from that role and now has Hughes Consulting. And I think you have been actually helping many of your customers wade through and actually make application in a number of these programs. So we've called you in today to kind of help walk us through. We also have Mr. Stephen Perkins here with us today. Stephen, good to see you. You're a CPA with the Warren Averett accounting firm, obviously a long-standing firm here in Okaloosa County. Likewise, you've been assisting your accounting clients as they're trying to figure out and understand these programs and get all of their documentation in place to make application. So this first video, we're going to focus on the Paycheck Protection Program. We're going to walk you through that application process, and then we'll have several other programs we'll be talking about in follow-on segments, so make sure that you watch all three of those videos. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Tony, to kick us off.
Thanks a lot, Nathan. So I really wanted to start off by telling people you've just got to be patient. The programs we're going to talk about today are there. They are real. They're not going to go away tomorrow, but it's going to take some time. We are in the midst of a national crisis, and these programs, the first two we're going to talk about, the Paycheck Protection Program and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, which will really be in the second video, are literally available to every business in the entire country. And literally every business in the entire country will probably be applying for them.
Which is millions.
Which is millions, and it's billions and billions of dollars. So, the pipe that this stuff was running through before was like this big, and now we need a pipe that's this big, but we still have a pipe this big. So we got to put this much volume through this big of a pipe, and it's just going to take some time. So everybody needs to take a breath. If you're talking to your bank, you're talking to the SBA, you're talking to the state of Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, you just need to understand that they are doing the best they can. I was literally emailing last night to somebody with an SBD, with the Small Business Development Center at about 9:45 last night about an application. So they're putting in hours, they're doing the best they can, but there's only so much they can do.
Sure.
I want to talk about the Paycheck Protection Program. This is the one that probably has got the most immediate money available for small businesses. Just kind of give kind of a big overview. It is really for, it's money for you to keep your employees on the job, to keep them, or at least get them paid, and basically to keep them paid for the next 8 weeks. So that's really what the program is for. It's not really long-term disaster relief money. It's not to go out and buy a new truck or to expand your building. It is really there to help you as a small business keep your employees paid, keeping them off the unemployment rolls. That's really what this program was designed for.
And this program does not have a specific economic injury requirement up front, is that correct?
It is the easiest one to apply for, and it's the easiest one to qualify for.
Which also means it's going to have the broadest number of folks making applications.
That's exactly right. And as we'll get into it, there are still limited places you can make application with the banks. These have to go through SBA approved, what they call the 7A program. They have to go through 7A approved banks, and not every bank is approved yet, but I know that the SBA is working as hard as they can to get as many banks approved as they possibly can. But there are some banks locally that are accepting applications right now.
Okay. So your first call needs to be to your banker then.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
That's exactly right. So if we can go to my screen here, RJ. So the Small Business Paycheck Protection Program, these are just some kind of big overview things. Fully forgiven. The money that you get from this, you will be potentially, it can be 100% debt forgiveness for you. Basically, it's an issue if you just have to keep your employees on the payroll. It's a little complicated, but it's not so much. And as we get into the application, you'll see better. But it's fully forgiven money. It is mostly for your employees and also to some extent to help pay your rent payments, your mortgage payments, and utility bills that you are incurring. And all small businesses are eligible, even 501c nonprofits, veterans organizations. There's a very broad range of people that can apply for this. Sole proprietorships, independent contractors, they're all eligible. Mostly, you've got to have under 500 employees. There are some ways around that, but generally speaking, you've got to be under 500 employees.
And I think from our primary audience today, that's where we're focused on. So.
The program kicked off last Friday, a little inauspicious, but it's still kicked off. They are processing applications. Small businesses and sole proprietorships can apply. And then beginning this coming Friday, April the 10th, independent contractors and self-employed individuals can start applying as well. Again, this is through the bank. And
to be clear, though, those folks need to be working their applications now.
That's exactly
Just because
right.
their window doesn't start until the 10th doesn't mean they want to wait around.
That's right. And we're going to show the application. We will kind of walk you through line by line. It's not like a page and a half. It's not complicated at all. You do have to go through an existing SBA 7A lender. The SBA, you see the SBA's website here, sba.gov. You can go to this website, and there's a window that says "Help me find a lender," and you just type in your zip code, and it will tell you the lenders that, at least on their records right then, are eligible to take applications.
And that can be a call you can make to your lender, because I understood they're approving hundreds of lenders
That's
a day.
That's right, every day. Okay. So step one is call your bank to see if they're accepting applications. If they're not, then go to the SBA website and see who is.
Okay.
But the applications are already online. You can download the application, you have it filled out, have all your paperwork, walk into the bank or submit it however the bank is taking the applications. You can walk in right then and get the process started.
Okay. Let's show them that application.
Yeah, let's go to the application. All right, here's the application. And it literally is, page and a half. It's really not bad at all.
So if anybody who's bought a house in the last 10 years, you're going to be blown away by the brevity of this application, right?
It's a lot easier. Probably a very important thing to realize is that these are designed for a really fast approval process. I mean, it really is just mostly a function of your payroll. And as long as you bring in some documentation to prove what your payroll is, along with your identification to make sure that you're not a terrorist or something like that. The banks still have to identify you properly. But generally speaking, this is a very fast turnaround time, and the bank should be able to approve you. I mean, I don't want to speak for the banks, but they could approve you within a day. Sure. Now, again, they're besieged by applications. It may take longer, but the process for approval, there's really no underwriting involved. They don't have to go through a big credit analysis. They don't have to look at 10 years worth of tax returns. This is really, really fast.
And so can we real quickly tell folks, so you have this rear-looking view, which is 12 months, I think, of your payroll. Mm-hmm. And ultimately that amount, and I think is it 10 weeks or 2.5 months? Do I have that number right?
So the loan amount is going to be for 2.5 months of your average monthly payroll.
Mm-hmm. For the previous 12 months period of time.
So it was initially discussed as the most previous 12 months of payroll, but it's actually turned out to be 2019's payroll.
So it's January, the calendar year of 2019.
That's correct.
Okay.
The average monthly payroll.
But then when you turn forward, so when you receive those funds, though the amount that is ultimately going to be written down is slightly broader than just payroll.
It's 2.5 times that payroll amount, but then you can spend it to get forgiven payroll expense as long as you have the same number of full-time equivalent. In fact, why don't I just flip it over here to Stephen. The application, you have the application up right now, and I really just wanted to show how quick and simple it is. Your name, your address, your trade name, your tax ID number, the phone numbers, and then the next thing is the average monthly payroll. And at that point, I'm going to push it over here to Stephen, and he can kind of talk about that, what actually counts in that figure.
Sure. So your average monthly payroll, for a lot of you, it's going to be what your W-3 said at the end of 2019, which is going to consist of your wages paid to your employees, your vacation, medical, and sick leave paid to employees, healthcare benefits you might have provided, retirement benefits, your state and local taxes if you've paid them. It's not really applicable in Florida, but also for you sole proprietors, that's going to include your self-employment income that you earn. Those are all capped at $100,000. So any employees or earnings that you have over $100,000 will not count towards the 2.5 times factor of calculating your average monthly payroll.
Their first 100,000 will, but nothing above that.
Correct.
It doesn't. Okay. Good.
Yeah, you're not wiped out if you make more than $100,000. It's just the excess over 100.
Okay.
Okay. All right, and so 2.5 times that amount, and that's your loan amount. You do have to state how many employees you had based on that average monthly payroll was based on how many full-time equivalent employees. In order to get the full forgiveness, you do have to maintain, you have to re-achieve and maintain that same number of full-time equivalents during the next 8 weeks after the loan closing to get the full reimbursement.
That's correct. So you have until, I believe, June 30th to rehire your employee that you may have laid off in the past month or 2 months in order to get that payroll amount forgiven.
And that's a good point. They were not going to penalize folks who weren't sure before this bill passed whether or not they were going to be able to pay their employees. So you weren't penalized if you sent those folks home or furloughed them, but you do have to bring them back on and pay them. So as a business owner, you can't take the loan and then not use it for paying those employees. Or if you do at least, then it remains as a loan and it's not going to be forgiven.
I mean, you can use it for any business purpose, but you're not going to get it forgiven.
Understood.
You can also spend up to 25% of your proceeds for things like your rent, your mortgage payment on your facility, and your utility bills. But you can't go, in terms of forgiveness, you can't spend more than 25% on that amount.
Okay.
But if you spend the money on those employees for 2 months and you spend no more than 25% on your overhead, your rent, utilities, whatnot, 100% of this loan can be forgiven.
Okay.
And so that's a really strong, robust thing. The process there is you gather your information after the 8 weeks is over. You gather your information to show what you've spent and how much, and then you take it back to the bank you got your loan for. And then within 60 days, they will make a decision that they'll look at your information and they'll say, yes, everything fits, and then they will send this information to the SBA. The SBA will then pay your loan off, and then you're done. You're done.
And so let's say you have an excess. Maybe you weren't able to keep all of your payroll up, and so you have money remaining that was not spent for one of those allowable purposes. What's going to then happen? What will be the process for repaying that? Or the terms have been fixed, I understand. Is that?
Yeah, it's a 2-year loan. It's at a 1% interest rate. At the end of 2 years, if there's a remaining balance, you'll just have to deal with the SBA. I mean, I'm sure they'll probably offer you something. It could be perhaps refinanced into an idle loan, or if you do get an idle loan, which is the subject of the next broadcast, then I'm sure there's a way that you can probably work that out with them.
But so unlike, we'll talk about in another segment, the Florida disaster loan, unlike that loan, which has a pretty high interest rate conversion, if I recall, 12 or 14%, this loan, you can at least rest assured that there's going to be very little in the way of interest that's going to eat up your repayment.
But if you do get it all forgiven, it's the interest as well as forgiven. So you could literally get this loan, and if you do it the right way, not have to pay one single penny. And there are no fees, this is another important thing, no fees charged to a borrower on the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program. Even if you do decide to go hire someone like me or hire someone like Steven to help you with this application, the bank that does this loan for you has to pay our fee. It's a fixed fee, and the bank pays the fee out of the fee they get from the SBA for putting it together.
Okay.
So zero cost to a borrower at all.
And even the Governor DeSantis actually suspended documentary stamp fees that would otherwise be payable, and so that portion of the fee has gone away. And you can not, don't worry about your banker too much, as I understand it. I think it's up 5% at least on reasonable sized loans that the bank's being compensated. And and I have many banker friends, and I'm sure y'all do as well, and they're out there working really hard right now. I know most of them work through the entire weekend to try and help their customers.
Well, the banks had their own problems to deal with because all their customers are being impacted by this, so they're already working out repayment schedules and payment deferrals and things like that for their existing customers, and now they've got this on top of them. So Not too unhappy. I'm not in the banking business right now.
Understood. And so, y'all may have covered this. If I missed it, forgive me. But so backup documentation that needs to be pulled together and ready. And if we said it, it may be worth saying that again for folks. What do folks need to have on their hands right now? What do they need to be going to their shoe boxes to pull together to complete this application if they haven't already done that?
Sure. So that's going to be decided on a bank-to-bank basis. They're all asking for different things, and they'll be able to tell you that. So you're going to want to call your banker and ask them what they're needing to process this application. I'm telling my clients to get W-3s from last year, or if you're a newer business, get your most recent up-to-date payroll information that you can provide. Because if you are a new business prior to, I believe, February 15th, 2020, you can still apply for this even if you didn't have payroll in 2019, obviously. So I would have tax returns ready to go for you self-employed individuals because that self-employment income could be a factor in determining this 2.5 months of payroll. So I would have tax returns ready, your previous year's or most recent payroll information.
Okay.
Am I missing anything?
One thing I'll jump on top of that and say, one thing that's very unique about this program is that the SBA tells the banks, you can take the borrower's word for it. If the borrower walks in with that W-3 as an example and says, this is my W-3, the bank does not have to do any additional verification beyond that. You under the penalty of perjury as a borrower are going to be saying, I'm making this representation to the United States government that this is what my payrolls were per my W-3. This is an accurate number. The bank is going to take your word for that. Now, don't lie.
Right.
It would not be good.
Use those sources as your information.
That's right.
Because one day somebody in the federal government is going to be auditing some of these, and there are substantial penalties.
But this does make it a little bit unique, and that is so that it is streamlined as much as possible, that you're not asking for a bunch of documents. The bank's not requiring a bunch of documents. Basically, here's my W-3. I represent it is true, and let's close the loan.
Okay. All right, and we're going to wrap this one up pretty quick, guys. I did want to make note, I think it was $250 billion it was allocated. 350, excuse me. All right, I missed $100 billion there, excuse me. $350 billion allocated, though I had heard, I think it was Bank of America submitted in basically in a single day about $30 billion worth of applications on behalf of their customers. Do small business owners out there need to be worried that it's going to be a rush for the money and it's all going to be gone and they're going to end up getting nothing funded on their application?
So in my opinion, no.
Okay.
I mean, I heard the president yesterday or day before yesterday in one of his press conferences say he's going to be going back to Congress and asking for another $200 billion. I was actually on a conference call with Senator Rubio this morning. Senator Rubio was actually one of the authors of the CARES Act which created this. And they knew then 350 was not going to be enough. And he's already talking about trying to get the Senate together for unanimous consent to add $200 billion to the Paycheck Protection Program. So I really don't think there's a problem. We were kind of joking before we started filming that this is sort of like the toilet tissue, toilet paper issues. Like, well, if everybody jumps in there,
sure,
it's going to clog the system up even worse. Go ahead and get your application filed. Make sure the application, it is available at sba.gov. You can download the application, get it all filled out, bring in your W-3, whatever information you have that supports those payroll taxes or those payroll amounts, and be patient with your banker. Call them, make sure they're taking the application. Be patient with them, but they're working on it, and you will get money from this program. You will get the money from this program, and I really don't think there's a problem with it running out.
Good. Okay. Well, we're gonna wrap it up there. Again, thank you today, Tony Hughes and Stephen Perkins. We appreciate you both being here. Thank you to the Fort Walton Beach Chamber of Commerce, who really kind of spearheaded putting this effort together. And then please pay attention. This is a 3-part series, and so look for the other 2 videos. The next one we're about to present to you is going to be on the economic injury disaster loan, and then we're going to talk about some interplay between that loan and potential funding, and then how that may impact this Paycheck Protection Program loan that we just talked to you about. Everyone, stay safe and stay healthy.